Dear friends and colleagues, good morning and warmly welcome to Eurocities Culture Forum 2021 and Tampere virtual stage. My name is Jaakko Laurila. I'm the Development Manager of Culture and will be your host for today, together with my dear colleague, Eija.
Good morning. It's a great pleasure to have you all with us. I'm Eija Oravuo, General Manager of Tampere Philharmonic Orchestra. The session is live streamed from Tampere Hall, which is one of the largest congress and concert centers in the whole Nordic countries. Even though we now meet virtually, we wish these 2 days will still be what Eurocities is all about. Sharing, learning, networking, getting inspired, and seeing the big picture. Where Europe is heading when it comes to culture.
In order this event to be interactive, we have a chat in this plenary session. So please use it to make comments, reactions, and maybe send greetings from your own city. You can use the chat also to make questions to our wonderful speakers today. And when you ask questions, please include your own name, your city, and to who the question is directed to. And we will ask those questions for you from our speakers.
The Eurocities Culture Forum 21 will be divided in 5 main sessions. This morning, we will have a plenary session and in the afternoon 4 workshops. Tomorrow, we will start with a short wrap-up of today, and the Culture Forum working groups will have their meetings. At the same time, a special session for politicians will be arranged. The forum will end with Eurocities business session, looking at the latest news of the Eurocities organization and the Culture Forum network.
The theme of our forum is culture and creativity for health and well-being in post-pandemic cities. This theme was decided over 3 years ago, of course without the pandemic part, but back then we did not realize how important this topic would end up being today. In many ways, we need culture perhaps now more than ever. The knowledge of how culture promotes our health and well-being has grown really strong in recent years. And now it's the time to put that knowledge into full action. We in Tampere wish this forum to be a step forward for Europe when it comes to culture, health and well-being. Before we dive more deep into our topic, we will hear official welcome words from Eurocities Culture Forum Chair Anne-Katrin Klepsch, the Mayor for Culture and Tourism from City of Dresden. And straight after Anne-Katrin, a few words from our Eurocities Culture Forum Brussels office. But first, Anne-Katrin, please.
Thank you very much, Jaakko and Eija. Hello and good morning to all of you. I have to tell you that I'm happy and sad at the same time this morning. I'm sad because we still cannot meet in real life in the beautiful city of Tampere. Our hosts have now prepared the meeting twice. We needed to cancel it last year and are now having an online meeting. So please, everybody, give a big applause to our host from Tampere for preparing and hosting the online meeting. You have done a great job. But I'm also happy because we, as the Culture Forum, have managed it very well. You are here, you have all involved yourselves in the many meeting opportunities that have been created in the past 2 years, almost 2 years. Online activities have been the norm for our Culture Forum since March 2020, and it worked well. Besides online forum meetings, our thematic working groups also met online on a regular basis. Thematic city dialogues took place online, for example, on music, cities, on culture, and on regular basis. We even hosted a series of 10 online peer learning visits on cultural heritage hosted by different cities and regions, gathering over 160 participants. I think we need to give a very big applause of thanks to you, to the Eurocities team, to Julie and Cecile, to Marta and Irene, and to everybody else at the office. They have done such a great job together with the team from Tampere. In the business session on Friday, this wonderful Eurocities team will update all of us about upcoming activities. I am especially happy that we will welcome new associated members to our forum. I think that's a very good sign that in these times of crisis, new cities are joining our network. And we will present the host of the next forum meeting in 2022. We are confident that we will slowly start seeing each other in person. We are trying to arrange a meeting of the steering group of the Culture Forum in Brussels in November to plan activities for 2020. But we also consider what we have learned from this crisis. How can we use those digital opportunities we needed to arrange in those past months? Can we find ways of working that are smarter, more resilient, and more sustainable? I want to encourage us all not to just go back to business as usual from before. We can do better. Our cities can do better if we find smart ways of recovery from the crisis. The cultural life of our cities is now slowly recovering. In this crucial moment, we are discussing the topic of culture and well-being. How does culture contribute to well-being, to quality of life, to healthy cities, better environments, and healthy citizens? The moment is just right to discuss these questions, because those discussions can inspire us in efforts to recover from the crisis, to build back more sustainable. We set this point on our agenda for the period of chair in the Culture Forum. It has been a very challenging period so far. But my hope is that will also be a transformative period for a smarter, more resilient, and more sustainable way of working, and ultimately of living in the cities. So in this sense, I wish you all a good and inspiring forum, workshops, and working group meetings. Alongside, we have invited political representatives of our cities to discussion on cultural recovery in cities that will take place tomorrow. On Monday, I have the pleasure to attend a high-level meeting between mayors and Maria Gabriel, the European Commissioner in charge of culture. I will be happy to report back on this meeting. But now, let's start.
Thank you, Anne-Katrin, for your kind and inspiring words. And then to Brussels, to our Eurocities Culture Forum office.
Thank you, Jaco. Do you hear us and see us well? Good morning from the Eurocities office, and I should say from the Eurocities studio. I'm Julie Hervé. I work at the Eurocities office together with my colleagues Cécile Huppert, Irene Alonso, and Miguel Gonzalez. And we would like to say a big thank you to our colleagues from Tampere who have spent a lot of time and energy making this event online. We are very happy to have received around 140 registrations from over 60 cities. So thanks a lot for being there, for being faithful to the Eurocities Culture Forum, and for this second online edition. Me and my colleagues will be available anytime during the forum to respond to specific questions or technical issues that you may have. Do not hesitate to send us an email directly or through the chat. A couple of practical information. So this forum will be recorded for internal purposes only. We encourage you to tweet, and please feel free to use the Twitter handle @Eurocities. And last practical point, we are using this Hopin platform. We know that for some of you, this may be the first time. So we have a 1-minute video that will explain you how to make the most of the networking opportunities. So after this video, over to you, Jaco, and see you later during the day and tomorrow, and enjoy the forum.
Hello, here is Miguel from the Eurocities events team, and I would like to show you a few features from the Hopping platform that will help you network with other participants and make the most out of the Culture Forum. On the left-hand side, you can see that we have the different spaces from this digital venue, and at the moment we are in the reception page. You can scroll down to see the information about the event and see the agenda. Under the People's tab, you will be able to network with other participants by clicking their name and invite them to a video call, schedule a meeting, and send them a message. If you choose to schedule a meeting with them, you can invite up to 20 other participants and set the date and time. All these meetings will happen within the Hopping platform, so you don't have to leave the Hopping area to network with other participants. The main stage is where the plenaries will happen, and the Sessions tab is where the workshops will take place. When joining the sessions area, do not worry if you not see the sessions, they only appear 5 minutes they are set to start. In the networking area, we can have one-to-one conversations with other participants from the forum. The exhibition area is always available, and you can discover our stands by clicking in one of them, see what we have prepared for you, go through the slides, watch a short video, and also register your interest so the person responsible for the booth will receive an email saying that you are interested in their project. I wish you have 2 days full of culture, creativity, and inspiring conversations. See you around the platform.
Thank you, Anne-Katrin and Eurocities team. I would like to also remind you that we have the chat. Please send your questions there. Now we would like to tell you more about Tampere and how we promote culture and well-being here. So please welcome Lauri Savisaari, the Executive Director of Culture and Education of Tampere City.
Welcome, Lauri.
Thank you, Eija. Thank you, Jaakko. As they presented me, I'm Lauri Savisaari, the Executive Director of Education and Culture for the city of Tampere. It's my true pleasure and privilege to officially welcome you all to this Eurocities Culture Forum in Tampere. It's been prepared for more than 3 years now, and it's the second consecutive year that we try to organize this forum, and it's a bit of a shame that finally that we are able to organize it. We have to do it virtually, but we all know why we have to do it so, and regardless of that, I really warmly welcome you all to this forum on behalf of the city. I will briefly give you some information about Tampere, and especially about the forum's theme that we are dealing with these 2 days. Try to explain how culture, health and well-being are connected to Tampere and its strategy, and why this topic is so important to us. Why talking about health and well-being is so important in our time in general, everywhere in the world, everywhere in Europe. Of course, it has to deal with the pandemic, how we will come out of the pandemic, how it will affect people's well-being, what part will culture carry in that coming out, and so on. We have a lot of segregation in societies everywhere in Europe. We have an increasing number of lonely people. Loneliness is a big issue, at least in Finland at the moment. We have regional differences within the city limits, and we have to make sure that everybody is on board somehow. And finally, not the least problem is that city development mostly focuses, at least in the Finnish case, on economic issues rather than individuals or societies' well-being issues. And well-being may even be put aside in those strategic discussions, and we have to make sure, and especially we have to make sure, that well-being and culture involved with the well-being is somehow integrated in that strategic discussion within the city development context. At this point, I have to thank cordially the Eurocities Brussels team, and also, of course, our local Tampere team for organizing this webinar or session or this culture forum. It's not easy to do it virtually, but I'm sure we have done, or you have done, the best you can at this point. And now, there, sorry, my mistake. First of all, and briefly about Tampere in general. Tampere is the third largest city in Finland. I would say the second city in Finland, because the second largest city by the number of population is Espoo, which is next to Helsinki, so it forms the whole Helsinki metropolitan area, and Tampere is the second city. We at the moment have a bit less than 250,000 inhabitants, and it's been foreseen that in 2033 we will have 290,000 inhabitants, and the whole region around Tampere is approximately 500,000 people. It's a first industrial city in Finland, not a very old city in European scale, less than 250 years, but it's been growing very rapidly, and as you can see from the numbers, still is growing. Tampere, we are very proud of this, is in the Finnish scale a very attractive city in the eyes of the citizens. We have been many years, consecutive years, being elected as a favorite city of Finns when they are asked where would they move if they had to move within the borders of Finland. They always want to come to Tampere. Tampere is also a city of culture, not only in our eyes, but in the eyes of our citizens as well. We have 10 professional theaters, which is in the scale of our city. It's a very big number. We have the biggest number of theater attendees and tickets sold in Finland, in whole of Finland. We have 18 professional museums in Tampere. We are being described as a sauna capital of the world because we have over 30 public saunas in Tampere, a big number even in Finnish scale. In our events, we have almost 5 million visitors every year, not of course during the pandemic, but in a normal year, I would say. We have a very active field of different subcultures in Tampere. It has a lot to do with the big number of students in Tampere. We have, I think, 50,000 students of our 250,000 inhabitants, which makes sure that it's a very lively population and a young population. The biggest age group within the Tampere citizens is 24 years. So that gives you an idea that we are really a city of young people as well. We have a big facility development going on. In December, there will be opened a new multi-purpose arena for sports, for different big culture events, just next to where we are now in Tampere. We have new facilities for artists in the making, in the process at the moment. It's a big problem also in Tampere, I think also in your cities, that there are not enough facilities, premises to work for artists, and we are at least trying to do something about that issue at the moment. And of course, we have major innovations in the field of cultural inclusion and cultural education, and you will hear more about those during these 2 days. Our first cultural strategy was adopted only in late 2019, and it of course had to do with the fact that Tampere was bidding to become a European capital of culture in 26. Unluckily for us, we didn't win the competition. Oulu, a northern city from Finland, win that, but nevertheless, it was a very big and a useful effort for us to create this cultural strategy and have a big political support behind it from the city council and city board. And it sort of divided into 4 different major goals. First one is the culture as a source of health and well-being for all. The second one is a home for or of creative people. Third one is a meaningful city, bringing all these city development issues to this cultural discussion as well. And fourthly, we want to be a world-class events and cultural offering city in the future. And today, as you all know, we will concentrate mostly, and today and tomorrow, mostly on the first goal of this city's cultural strategy. In the description of this forum, we said that Finland is one of the forerunners in culture and well-being, and that Tampere is one of the most interesting ecosystems in Finland in this theme. Why we say that? We see that culture in our city is strongly recognized as a source of well-being, not only in national level, but also in the city level. We have, as I described earlier, vibrant cultural life overall in the city, also in the suburbs. Could be more, but we are going into the suburbs as well. We have, as a city and a city organization, I would say, a very strong know-how of the local artists and the cultural institutions. We have discussed with colleagues from Espoo and Helsinki with this, about this issue, and they always are amazed about how Tampere has these strong connections and network with the artists and the field. We also have strong networks between the culture sector and the social and healthcare sector. And as a strategic approach for the city and for the larger region of Pirkanmaa, Tampere region, we have a regional plan for cultural well-being. We also, of course, in Finland have a legislation backing this theme very strongly. We have a new law legislation about culture services in municipalities, and this well-being theme is one of the biggest goals of that legislation as well. If we look at the context of culture in the city organization, just briefly, 15 years ago, we sort of positioned culture in the city organization under the umbrella headline of education and the quality of life. For the past few years, they were part of a larger entity or larger department called wellbeing services. So they were single sub-department under that, as you can see. And now, since 2020, we have this department called Culture and Education, which I'm the head of, and culture is one of the 4 major service sectors under that umbrella. So you can see that culture has, as probably in your cities as well, has had different positions within the city organizations, but I would say in Tampere that culture has always had a very strong position and a stronghold within the political discussion, for example, and that's a very big asset for us. Even in a more difficult economic times, Tampere has managed to maintain the funding for culture and even increasing it occasionally. Regarding this theme, the forum's theme, we have created this Tampere recipe for cultural well-being. This is what we actually mean when we talk about culture and well-being or cultural well-being. Finland at the moment is in the middle of social and healthcare reform as a country, and those duties will be taken from municipalities to larger regional entities. And in this framework, we have worked to better understand and describe how different cultural services work for our well-being and how they are connected to social and healthcare services in the future. We came up with this recipe or menu for cultural well-being, which may be a bit playful, but hopefully easy to understand and to remember. And this is how it goes. First of all, we have pasta, which means cultural services open to all. This is the normal offering of the city. It tries to sustain well-being, demands work to make it more accessible. Culture in general, examples are libraries, museums, festivals, everything a normal major city would see in its cultural offering everywhere in Europe. The second part of the menu is a bit more tailored one. So it's for different people, cultural services tailored for different needs, for people with different needs. So we call it gluten-free pasta. It's a bit different. So it serves to sustain well-being and to ensure cultural rights. This means, for example, library home services, visual arts in hospitals, moving or mobile theater shows, going to different facilities, suitcase museum, easy to take with you to, for example, an elderly care unit, and so on. And finally, we have what we call dietary supplement, which means cultural services with well-being goals, not therapy, but certain well-being goals. This is to serve to strengthen physical and mental resources and to ensure inclusions to the society, especially for those in need of special services, empowering photography for youngsters with mental health history, hospital clowns, father-baby circus. You may all have this, but this is our way to sort of divide these different services and focus on these different services as well. You will hear more about these examples during the forum. I also earlier mentioned how culture has been recognized as a source for well-being in the national level. And this, what you see now, is a good example of it. We have this thing called TEA. It's an abbreviation of, in Finnish, about the evaluation of health and well-being promotion activity in cities and municipalities. So every Finnish municipality, I think there are about 300 of those at the moment, do this every year. And culture is one part of this TEA meter. It's one way to evaluate what we do. It doesn't offer information about individual practices or about the impacts of culture, but it gives you more of a picture on the organizational level on how culture and how health and well-being promotion is being carried out in different municipalities, in different cities in Finland. A very useful tool for us. And to make it even more concrete, in our region, in Tampere region, we have the regional plan for cultural well-being, which is connected to the overall well-being plan of the region. This has to be done by law, but this cultural well-being doesn't have to be done by the law, but we have done it anyway, in fact, several years ago. And there's a steering group from authorities in the social and healthcare sector, culture sector, and different kind of public authorities and organizations, NGOs, part of this steering group structure. And it gives concrete recommendations for various stakeholders on how to increase cultural well-being in the region. So we have this. So do many other regions in Finland, but I think ours was the first one. I'm not sure. So, about the future. As I said, we have this social and healthcare reform going on in Finland at the moment. In the future, we know that municipalities, cities, will have a bigger role in promotion health and well-being overall. It's also the role of the cities and municipalities by law. And we are sure that at least in Tampere and our region, culture will have even a bigger role in the health and well-being promotion activities taking place in cities and municipalities. What we do now know is that we have a need to redefine the cooperation models with the social and healthcare services. We have to make sure that when they move from the city's responsibilities to the regional responsibilities, that there will be no setbacks in those good connections we have already built in Tampere to make sure that culture is an integral part of this promotion of health and well-being overall. And we need to better understand the impacts of culture in the context of well-being and health promotion. Of course, finally, and not to make this only an instrumental thing, we have to think about art and culture themselves. When we talk about using art as a tool for well-being or tailoring cultural services to different needs, we have to remember to keep focus in the art itself also. Art should always be first art, and after that we can debate and discuss what kind of social, economic, ecological, physical or mental impacts it has. Cultural well-being arises from the atmosphere of inclusion, agency and appreciation that we can experience together and alone with art. Of course, And I have to say that as a public official, within the context of public funding, the somewhat instrumental use of art and culture is also relevant in the eyes of the city officials, at least when we are arguing for better resources for art and culture. We need to have these instrumental arguments in those discussions with the city higher officials and the city council. I would say the society supports art because art is needed in society. But we have to remember that art is needed in society in various different ways. As art itself, of course, as I said, but also as a crucial ingredient of life and well-being of citizens and society. And this is what I want to end my part of this forum with, this message, that the society supports art because art is needed in society. Once again, I warmly welcome you to this cultural forum. We are very excited in Tampere hosting this event, and we have great expectations about the output of this forum, and we really hope that we will see face to face very soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lauri. We sure are proud of our city. There's a lively conversation going on in the chat, and remember, if you have questions for Lauri, now it's time to write them down and I will ask them for you. There was one question about, can we get more information on Tiameter? And actually my colleague already sent a link, but it's worth of mentioning that we will make a final digest, a report of this whole forum, and we will include all of the main links needed to that report, and it will be delivered to you all. I have one question for you when we wait for the questions from the chat. You mentioned that culture has many instrumental values and maybe goals in cities. We invest it to make cities more attractive, to increase tourism, for example. What do you think? Are these goals for increasing tourism, for example, how do they go together with the goals for well-being? Are they somehow opposite?
They are not opposite in my opinion. They are not in any way contradictory with each other. I think they supplement each other, at least very much from my own point of view as a city official, trying to make sure that art and culture are sufficiently supported by the city. So these supplement each other in my understanding. They have a different approach, of course, but from the city strategic point of view, I would say they have to supplement each other. So not only we have to make sure that every citizen or the local societies are somehow integrated, and I see that art and culture are great ways to do that. But in doing that, it also makes the city of Tampere more attractive for people outside Tampere to visit us, to come us, and also, of course, to give resources to maintain and develop our cultural structures and cultural facilities and offering in general. That's my point of view, of course.
Thank you, but I have to say I agree. There's a lot of applause for you, Lauri, and people think that this was a presentation in place and really inspiring. But there is no questions here now, so I would like to thank you and see you later.
Thank you. See you soon.
Soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lauri. Next, we will observe our main theme from a new angle. If and when art has such a huge impact in well-being and health, it must surely affect economy too. But how to better understand the complex connection between art, well-being, and economy?
This is a question we are seeking answers to with our next speaker, Pia Houni. You can find the biographies of all of our speakers from the Speakers tab on the left of your screen. And as you can see from Pia's bio, she's a real expert on her field, and I'm sure we will have an interesting 30 minutes ahead with Pia. And after Pia's presentation, again, we'll have time for some questions, so please remember to use the chat again. But now, Pia, please, the floor is yours.
Okay, good morning, people around Europe. It's a privilege to be here to give this presentation, so thank you very much to this opportunity. I will start my presentation by focusing on the word well-being, its connection to stories and the meaning of stories to our lives. After this, I will shortly open some research on the matter, then turn my focus to economy and close my presentation with some propositions and future views. The meaning and position of art and culture in society has changed significantly during the last 10 to 20 years. Economic growth and effectively have forced us to look at art and culture in a new light. On one hand, this is a fascinating situation when we focus our attention to the question, how can art be an investment to well-being? We are simultaneously looking back at history. The ancient Greeks already understood the meaningful impact art has on people. Theater, music, and environmental aesthetics treat and influenced people as they do today. It is not very easy to define what well-being is. Even in the medical field, there are comparative theories on this topic. One of the more prevalent understandings is the self-report experience of one's own well-being. In other words, people telling their story about their understanding of their own well-being. As Foucault argues, Western modern medicine introduced clinical categories pertaining to mental health that produced specific types of deviant identities and enable greater state control over the identification and separation, both spatial and ideological, of ill and healthy populations. When people are healthy, the body can be practiced out of people's perceptual experience of themselves. In illness, however, the body interrupts the fantasy of mastery, making its presence known and felt, exposing itself for what it actually is, that is, as a material foundation of subjectivities. Illness interrupts comfortable certainties by forcing open the perceptual gap between doing and being. Where the doing of life is restricted and confounded, when the body loses some or all of its capacities to function or is affected by serious psychological trauma. It is only when something goes wrong with the body that we are beginning to notice it. The harmony between the biological and lived body is disrupted, and the difference between two becomes noticeable. Gilly Bolton, the British pioneer of therapeutic writing, has talked about important roles of medical humanities. Bolton says that many professionals argue that they don't need to write their stories, but once a story has been written, read, and discussed, they understood how an artistic process can significantly develop their perception and understanding. Why is this important? Bolton says, we do not go to the particular section with a live file, a drawer, or cabinet in our memories, we go to a particular place in a narrative, an association of events, faces, voices, places, foods, and senses of roughness or softness. Since the Enlightenment, we have suffered under mechanical metaphors that divides bodies and minds as machines. We are not. Our feelings, cognitive, physical, spiritual selves, and intermixed, they conditions and were conditioned by political and cultural context. All are expressed, understood, and expressed as narrative. Some words about research knowledge. In November 2019, WHO launched a report by Daisy Fancourt and Joyce Finn. This report went quickly viral due to its sheer size. It includes a few hundred research references, about 3,000 different researches. Even though these members are impressive, it is wise to understand what different types these results fall into. In this report, the authors collect and analyzed very important research data and gave evidence that art and culture activities can impact well-being and health extremely coherently. And in this slide, I have a main topic and results about this report. Fancourt's research group also published a new review article in Lancet this year about how leisure activities affect health. Thousands of studies have shown a relationship between leisure engagement and both physical and mental health, including showing efficacy and causality through experimental and clinical intervention studies, and the longitudinal and beneficial nature of these effects. In relation to mental health, studies have judged the value of leisure activities in the prevention and management of mental illness. In relation to physical health, there is evidence that engagement in self-reported health and play a protective role against some development physical illness. In this report, researchers have identified over 600 potential mechanisms of action by which leisure activities might affect health. Some of these mechanisms represent immediate responses to leisure activities, whereas others are proposed to emerge over the time or through changes in wider aspects of human development and behavior. Generally speaking, I would like to argue on behalf of research work with this thought. The quality of research work is based on two components. Is the research question good? And is the method that answers the questions suitable? As we fervently look for results of impacts, we might forget to see fruitful possibilities given by research work. The idea of impact is training us to see two opposite ideas. Yes, art can give good feelings, and yes, we can see the brain scan how music impacts the brain. Definitely, these both extremities give important information about impact. But this information doesn't do anything by itself. We need to also use this data and simultaneously think of ways to develop research to be more profound and not only copy previous works. We need more qualitative research questions and connection between different kinds of methods. Why do we need this? The answer is very simple. The purpose of qualitative research is to create qualitative practices. Next, I'm going to say something about the economy. When we talk about art as an investment to well-being, usually this also includes the economical aspect, at least in the social and healthcare sector, but also generally in municipality economics. In the last few years, I have been trying to understand more about the connection between economy and the impact of art. This task is not an easy one. It wasn't very easy to choose what to say here. Look at numbers. Yes, we can do that. But basically, in every country has its own standards and indicators. In this power, I will demonstrate Anger's 3 ideas of how to look at economy from a philosophical perspective. This might connect together with the complicated economical thinking. When we try to isolate some mechanism that impacts people, this task is almost impossible. I need to say shortly about these 3 economical points. First, standard economics. The economic welfare of the country is intimately associated with the size of the national dividend, and changes in economical welfare with change in the size of dividend. Measures of this general kind like gross domestic product (GDP) per capita have well known in shortcomings, but continue to be widely used as welfare measures for public policy purposes. The importance of the national product as a measure of well-being helps explain the widespread concern with economic growth. Though specifically different, one thing that these measures have in common is the fact that they are based on preference satisfaction accounts of well-being. In the standard analysis, these measures are treated as measures of welfare because they can be shown to be utility functions. The proofs are available in any standard issue graduate level microeconomics textbook. Another thing these measures have in common is that they are based on utilitarian social welfare function, according to which social welfare is the sum or average of individual welfare. Number 2, economics of happiness. In the last few decades, economists have shown increasingly interest in the scientific study of happiness, satisfaction, and other subjectivity experience, positive or desirable mental state. The economics of happiness as a self-conscious subdiscipline is largely due to Richard A. Esterlin in 1974, who brought happiness studies to the attention of mainstream economists and whose results continue to attract attention from them. When researchers compare different nations, for example, they typically compute the mean happiness or satisfaction score in each nation and compare and contrast those levels. Number 3, social indicators and capabilities. The most famous outgrowth of social indicators movement in the Human Development Index, HDI, of the United Nations Development Programme. The HDI has appeared annually in the Human Development Report since 1990. The HDI is based on 3 essential elements of human life: longevity, knowledge, and the decent living standards. The UNDP explains that life expectancy matters because a long life is valuable in itself. The capabilities approach represent a shift away from what people succeed in attaining, whether evaluated in terms of happiness, preference, satisfaction, or something altogether different, and toward the freedom they have in leading their lives. Martha Nussbaum has said, life, bodily health, bodily integrity, senses, imagination and thoughts, emotions, practical reasoning, affiliation, other species, play, and control over the one's environment are those capabilities. It is not very easy to make a proposal how to construct a sustainable economy. One short proposal what I give to you here could be practice-based research, which develops elaborate knowledge of some practice. In this approach, everyday thinking is taken seriously side by side with the theoretical thinking. Finnish scholar Keijo Räsänen has proposed 4 dimensions for this work. One is how to do things. It's like a tactical question. What is reached and achieved? It's like a political question. Why these means and targets? It's like a moral question. And the last one, who am I as a subject of work? It's like a personal question. So we should think about this more maybe later. My presentation turns to the last points, and for this we have a remember artist. I was very happy about the previous presentation from Lauri that he took this up as well. Who are the core of the matters? Artists are the core of the matters. Without any high-quality artists, education and working experiences, nothing happens. It is also important to remember that artists have a right to their professions. Artists are creator, and creativity is the highest capital what humankind has, in a good and in a bad way. Daniels Reagan set up Arts and Health Hub in UK is one of those positive innovations. This network has collected hundreds of people to work together and share their knowledge. Like Avishai Margalit say, the spirit of a justice cannot tolerate systematic humiliation by its basic institutions. Because without the self-respect, there is no point in doing anything whatsoever. Without self-respect, one has no sense of value of any sense that life has meaning. When society calls itself a democracy, it means responsibility for providing capabilities for all its members. A decent society cares about the dignity of its members, including the more vulnerable ones. Societal justice means opportunities to participate and express yourself without punishment. Art is a language to which we have a right through life as a consumer, hobbyist, or as an educated artist. I believe that individuals and communities who participate in art activities are growing to know themselves, get better skills and the better skills of empathy, and for this reason, better lives. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pia. So now it's time for your questions, dear audience, that you can type in the chat. And we have a first question from Rob Steege from the Netherlands. How do you see well-being as a cultural force compared with what they in Netherlands in the 1890s in political terms called a makeable society? Are you familiar with this makeable society term?
A little bit, not maybe very much, but a little bit, yes. Can you repeat the first one? It's about the cultural...
Yeah, how do you see well-being as a cultural force compared with the makeable society?
Yeah, very, very good question, and it's not an easy one. I think it's very important to find out in which way we want to see the culture in the society in generally, and understand more deeper about its connection to the well-being. And I think it's very, very important maybe to separate a little bit the word culture and art. Because in culture we including almost everything, like reading a newspaper, cooking or whatever. Everything is culture where we are living. But when we're talking about the art and how the art impact to the well-being, it's a little bit different things. But I don't know, am I sure to answer very correctly for this question, but it's very, very good. Probably I should know a little bit more about this, the Netherlands situation, yeah.
All right, thank you. And Rob, if you want to make some follow-up questions,
yes,
please do it in the chat. So then we have a question from Andrea Koatsianova. How to make artists think about how they could contribute through their work to well-being goals and not just doing art for art?
This is also a very, very good question and in the middle of the focus. In my research team, we have found out that there is the artists who want to call themselves like a social engaged artist. And these artists usually, train it more than they basic the art school education. And usually these artists have some kind of inner vision that they want to do something with the art in the social sectors or cities or whatever. But I think it's very important that we are side by side the different the parts to make art and the keep alive in the different kind of activities, which I mean that those artists who just want to do artwork, it's their right to do that. And it's still, very important and impact to the people as well as some kind of participating art or something like that, yes.
Maybe we come back to the recipe of cultural well-being that Lauri just presented. That
absolutely,
still art increases the well-being, whether it be pasta or gluten-free pasta.
Good.
And we need makers for all of the...
Absolutely, yes.
For all. Stefan Hoffman from Dresden would like to ask that, can you elaborate a little on how you would measure the level of well-being of a population?
Okay.
Big question.
Big question, yeah. I have one idea to share very quickly for this question, because WHO, when they usually doing a big service data around Europe to collect it, how the people feelings, how they, in which level their well-being is and so on. And if I remember right, it was 1992, they suddenly find out that, okay, we have very, very good battery of questions to gather the information for the people, but they understood that they don't have very much question about existential health. And they starting to notice and underline more about these questions that the human being is the existential, which is something that we usually thinking more or less when we are doing art, that it starts to our existential, the potentials, whatever. And it was very interesting part of this survey that they wanted to find out more about the existential level and questions. But the point is the measuring is always very problematic at the moment. And the basic the problem is because the human is so complicated and so many things impact to ourselves in at the same time. It's very difficult to isolate it. That okay, if something happened for my well-being, that it's totally coming from the art, because it's not working in causality. Like if I have a headache and I take the pills, after 20 minutes I'm feeling better. Art is not working like this, and that's something that I believe that we should develop more about these measures. That how we measuring, how we understand about these impacts and to get the good knowledge. But if you listen to carefully, you probably notice that when I shared these two research reports, they really say very often that they are focusing about self-reported well-being, which is a little bit different than the doctors measure something. Yeah.
One conversation, actually, you mentioned of this a little bit that comes up when we talk about art and well-being, is that is the value of culture as such threatened when we talk about culture or art in the context of economy or well-being? What do you think?
Yeah, okay. It's of course it's obviously very central of that action. I'm not so sure what you're looking for this question.
This is a conversation that often comes up within the artist. You actually talked a bit about this already.
Okay.
That is the value of culture as such somehow threatened?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yes, that's true that we're calling that the art for the art's sake activities, which meaning that the artists say that they have their rights for the authentic independency art. This is a quite modern statement or quite modern idea, because when we're going back to the history, we find out that the more than the artists have done independently, they are doing art in the connecting with some economical, the supporters or managers or whatever. And it's a problematic question, but as I said, that I think it's important at the moment in our societies that we can keep open, all this path. That artists have a right to doing artist work independently, more or less. What does it mean in generally to doing work independently? But it's we have to also understand that there is many artists who want to be a social engaged and using their art for the other people in the hospitals or other institutions. But I think the one big question behind this is about money. Because usually, the art is thinking about that, okay, now when we have this cultural well-being wave or something, it's meaning that, we are going to get less money for our own artistic work. That's maybe some worries about the background, which is, of course, the relevant point.
Relevant point, yes. So we have a lot of city representatives online now. And when we leave this forum, what do you think? What would be the next steps for cities to do better work with cultural well-being and to connect culture better to their well-being policies?
I think that the one point what we should do is doing more cooperation, because every country is going a little bit, their own way or own rhythm. And at the moment, example to Finland, we have much, these activities and forwards activities and the political, the will to support about this cultural well-being. So I think we can learning something about the good practices from each others and maybe support each others to doing things. And of course, it's, as I said, in this presentation, it's very important that we're gonna get, the good research, results as well, because they are leading the good practices, of course.
Yes.
But cooperation is power, I believe so.
And that's why we are here within the Eurocities Culture Forum today. Stefan Hoffman has maybe a final remark or maybe a question. Maybe what we call art for art's sake is also a reservoir of freedom, and this freedom is what society needs to be healthy and sane.
Lovely comment, very lovely comment. I agree this, absolutely.
Me too.
Yeah.
But creativity is the highest capital for human. That was something that touched me really much on your speech. If there are no more questions, we would like to thank you, Pia, at this point. But we will hear more of you a bit later today, as you will give your insight and wrap up this plenary session before the lunch.
Absolutely, I will. Thank you very, very much, everybody.
Thank you, Pia.
Yeah.
20 minutes.
Yeah. Now it's time for a little break, but don't go far. We have about 20 minutes, and then we will continue at 11:30 Central European Time. So, see you soon.
Enjoy your coffee.
Welcome back to the plenary session of Eurocities Culture Forum 21 from Tampere virtual stage. It's great that we have had so lively discussion in the chat so far. Let's continue that. We have invited friends from 4 member cities to join the discussion. So, please welcome Claire Lovett, Principal Projects Development Officer from London. Can you hear us, Claire?
I can indeed.
Great, and we can hear you. Then we have Lars Davidsen, the Head of Culture from Aarhus. Welcome, Lars.
Thank you.
Stefan Teisanu, Cultural Manager and Entrepreneur from Cluj-Napoca. Are you with us?
No, just Claire.
Okay. And Sonia Ruiz, the Gender at Time Policies Director from Barcelona. Welcome.
Thanks. Yeah. Thank you. Hi.
Great to have you all with us. Our focus will be on the strategic approach on how creativity can be used to foster health and well-being in our cities. And we will begin with Claire and Lars, so please. London and Aarhus have both adopted strategies for working with culture and health, which aim to integrate art and culture through initiatives that promote health and well-being among citizens. Could you give us your overview of it? What's the actual focus and how it has been implemented from a policy-making perspective in your city? Claire, would you kindly start?
Sure. Good morning, everybody. Firstly, I'd like to introduce where I am. So I'm sat on the south of London. So this is the Thames. And here you have Quantum Cloud, which is a public art piece by Anthony Gormley. And it's part of a very new walk called The Line. And it's the first dedicated modern contemporary artwork. And it's been used in wellbeing walks, and you are able to be socially prescribed to come and visit a lot of the Line public arts. So maybe perhaps a little context. I was really inspired by our guests and hosts, particularly Pia, who was talking about the power of cooperation. Cooperation is power. That really resonated with me. Here in London, we have many, many years of practice for cultural practitioners and artists. They're delivering in a whole range of art settings and health settings, be that care homes, hospitals, closed institutions, gardens, museums, right the way across the city. The interesting thing for us sitting at the GLA is that not everyone has equal access to this fantastic practice. And so part of the process, the mayor created a culture strategy, and it was developed with Londoners and with cultural institutions and launched in 2018. And one of the key tenets within that was that Londoners should have access to culture to support their health and well-being. And that was the start of the work that we did. So one of the many strategic interventions, and the ambition is to promote the benefits of the arts. We were looking at 3 areas of work: cultural social prescribing, supporting Londoners with issues of that they experience through suffering dementia, living with dementia, and also children and young people's mental health and supporting them. What we're aiming to do is to hardwire culture into city life through health. And we're doing this through a number of flagship programs, including the London Borough of Culture, which is a year-long program which supports and engages all of the citizens within that particular borough. And the next title borough is launched next year in Lewisham. And we're really excited about that, and how the whole of May will be set aside for creative health and wellbeing activities. So this is how we develop the work. It's very, very closely connected with our health colleagues. And the mayor has a policy called the Health Inequalities Strategy, and also promotes health in all policies across all of the different cultural and units within the GLA.
Thank you, Claire. Sounds very ambitious. And then, Lars, would you continue from Aarhus?
Yes, sure. And thank you, Tampere, for having this event, first of all. I think in Aarhus, the starting point is much about our experience from being a European capital of culture in the year 2017 and the lessons learned from that and the work prior to that year. One of the main focus of that project was to get culture into all welfare areas, including the health area. And to follow up on that, in 2020, we did a mapping of culture and health initiatives in Aarhus, and that resulted in quite an expressive catalog of over 80 initiatives in different areas. And that together conceived me and City Council that we should adopt a strategic approach to the area, and so they agreed upon a culture and health policy in the year 2020. And we have formed an office together with my good colleagues at the health department, where we co-finance the employees, etc. And we are working together as a steering group to execute the culture and health policy. And we are quite in the starting point and in the middle point. But I would say one of the main thing is the experience from 2020 and how we actually could see that culture could make a huge difference in the welfare areas of culture and health. So that was the starting point, and why our politicians at the local level see it as a very good idea that we are working together and working on this issue. So that is the main strategic approach here in Aarhus, and it's high on the political agenda as well.
Yeah, sounds great. Thank you. You both have mentioned how important the collaboration with health side is. So could you give us some examples or tell us more in detail how this collaboration has been developed in your city in practice? Where would you start? Lars.
Okay. Shall I start?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Great. So it's a very complicated landscape, particularly in London. It's also in flux as well. It's kind of brilliant but fragmented. There's a lot of wonderful practice in kind of hyper-local right the way across London, hidden in pockets. Many different stakeholders and players. So the NHS, obviously, social care, public health. During the pandemic, there was a whole swathe of emergency hubs, response hubs that were set up by mutual aid groups. And so you're right, it is very, very interesting when you're trying to join all of that together. And some of the ways that we've been doing that is using the role of the mayor to convene. And so we have established a number of round tables for our colleagues in health and culture to come together and to share what they have been, how they've been approaching, particularly during the pandemic, the support for Londoners. Our health colleagues have commissioned London Plus, which is an organisation which brings together the very small-scale voluntary and community sector organisations. We've created a mythbuster. So many people have difficulties in navigating this landscape. So this Mythbuster is for cultural organisations and social prescribers and health professionals to understand what cultural prescribing means, what does good look like, where can they find it, case studies. And we're using it as a way of creating a conversation between the different sectors. It's building a shared language, and that takes time, and you can only move at the speed of trust. And with all of these different moving parts, it's quite complex. But we're on that journey now, and we can start seeing the benefits of that, because some of the benefits of that are now beginning to establish what a network of creative health cities might look like. How do we support the artists and arts practitioners that are delivering this work through self-care? And also, how do we diversify the workforce, which is really, really important, and plays also to the mayor's health inequality strategy.
Yeah. Sounds great. It all starts with building the network and the communication and so on. And this sharing, building a shared language. I think that's in practice very important, because we come from different angles and try to find a common resolution to the things. How about you, Lars? In our Aarhus and your region, what's your method of proceeding in this?
We are so lucky that our good colleagues in the health department has many good experience over many years now with the work of culture and health, so they're quite open to the area. and they see primarily culture and health inside two areas: culture as a way of improving life, the social aspect, the community aspect, but also culture as a treatment and rehabilitation effort. And of course, we're working with the cultural institutions and the health institutions as well, and they're quite open to it also. But one of the things that we have identified that is a challenge is that the meeting between the two sectors out on the ground, so to speak, so that the cultural institution knows what the healthcare sector actually see as a way of efforts to go to a different kind of challenge, but also what has the cultural institution to offer to the health sector. And these meetings, there's a need to facilitate these meetings, also to gain new ideas. So much of our strategic approach right now is to facilitate these meetings and try to make the visible what the cultural institution has to offer, but also what the demand from the cultural for the health sector is to the cultural institution. And we think that is the catalog of 80 different cases illustrate there is a lot of good work going on, but it can be structured and it can be evaluated and improved, and that is much about our cultural and health policy right now. So it's much more practical work on a strategic level that is needed right now.
I'm sure we all could learn a lot of your cases. But one I would like to still ask to end our conversation and come to the chat questions is that you both have mentioned the culture on prescription. And could you give more insight on that? What has worked, what is maybe still in development, and how you see the future?
There was also a question of this in the chat, and please send your questions to the chat, and we will actually take the questions for all 4 of our speakers at the end of this session. But now go ahead, maybe Claire again can start.
Sure. So I think the question was, what is cultural social prescribing? Is that the question?
Yes.
Yeah. It's an opportunity, so for an individual who may have had some kind of chronic illness over a long period of time that have gone repeatedly to their doctor. We now have a system that has been recently introduced within the health system called link workers. And these link workers work in collaboration with the doctors. They may be set within a medical centre, or they may be part of the council. Each of the different boroughs across London have taken slightly different approaches. But in essence, the link worker connects that individual with whatever support they need for their health and well-being, whether that be financial advice, legal advice, or indeed cultural social prescribing. And some of those types of activities could be gardening, it could be singing. One particular example is English National Opera, who developed very recently a programme called Breathe. And this was in collaboration with the Imperial NHS Trust. And it's supporting people with long COVID to recover from long COVID, which has been very successful. And is just starting to be scaled across the UK, across England.
Thank you, Claire. Could you give some insights too, Lars?
Yes. In Aarhus, we have the initiative called Cultural Vitamins. It is set up by the municipality and aimed at citizens who are unemployed, on sick leave, with stress and anxiety or depression. And the concept is that you get a prescription for culture by a job consultant based on the assumption that when you suffer from this, from stress and anxiety or depression, you need to improve your mental and social well-being before you're able to take a job or start on an education schedule. So they go to different kind of cultural events together in the same group. It could be singing, reading, painting, etc. And we have good experience with it. Some of the result right now is that 97% of the participants are satisfied with the course. 8 out of 10 are in better self-assessed well-being after the course. is completed, and the average well-being increased from 38 to 58 on the WHO scale of self-assessed well-being. And almost half of the participants estimate that culture by prescription has made them better able to handle their job. So it's actually quite a simple thing, but it has good impacts also right now.
Yeah, great effects. Thank you very much, Claire and Lars, for this illuminating discussion. We will come to the questions from the audience later with you, so please be with us, and Jaakko will continue.
Thank you, and so see you quite soon. Next we will travel to Romania, to Cluj-Napoca, and we will have Stefan Teisanu with us. Do we have Stefan online?
Okay, not yet.
So we will wait for Stefan for a little while. And Stefan, when you can hear me, please tell. Do we have Stefan?
Yes, I'm here. Hello, thank you for having us.
Hello.
Hello. Nice to see you, Stefan. I have to say I feel a special connection to you and your city, because we are in quite a similar situation. Both of our cities bid to be the European capital of culture, but did not get the title, and congratulations to Oulu in Finland. But now that I look at the work that you have done in your city, and I have to say I'm really impressed on how you have managed to make the most out of the legacy of your bidding process. So you are a co-founder and an executive director of Cluj Cultural Center, and this center carries on the legacy of your bid process and your main theme, culture, health and well-being. Could you tell us more about your work and organization, Stefan?
Of course, good to see you in Tampere, even online for now. Yes, our organization is an NGO, is a non-governmental organization that has led the candidacy for Cluj-Napoca for the European Capital of Culture title for 2021. While doing the planning, the programming for the competition, we assembled together around 50 cultural organizations and institutions from the local environment, and then we went to building the culture strategy and then the culture plan. But what we did is also to design a plan B in case we don't get the title, which actually happened. And the plan B was basically very, very similar to plan A. It just didn't include the opening and closing ceremonies. But the whole idea was that we believed and we believe that planning for an ECOC competition should be done in a very sustainable way, and you should ask an extra question to the bid book on the bid book, and the question should be, would you still do this without the title? So this is how we thought about our cultural programming, and 1 week after the final result, we announced officially that we are carrying on with the program, and we kept the organization. We just changed the title, the name of the organization, and we became Cluj Culture Center. And now we have 112 organizations as members. They are coming from the culture sector, the academic sector, the public sector, the civil society, and the business sector also. And our mission is to mobilize culture for the benefit of society, to bring social transformation and sustainable development. And yes, well-being is one of the key aspects that we have in our mind, in our program. It connects directly with the strategy of the city, which has increasing the quality of life as the main purpose, as the main target. And we try to look at what sort of impact can culture and the arts bring to health and well-being by working with other cultures. And we have a large program called Inner Space that looks at research for culture and well-being, pilot making, and international cooperation.
Thank you. So it's really a joint effort for the whole community, this Plan B. Like I said, I'm really impressed. You already kind of explained that why is the culture, health and well-being one of your main focuses. But could you tell us how has the pandemic affected your approach? Because this is a big question.
Yes, during the pandemic, I think the world has witnessed the fact that we are very similar, no matter of the background, no matter what our backgrounds are. We are very similar when facing a big happening, a big trauma. So yeah, we did the same in Cluj and in Romania. We experienced a new way of working, a new way of living. And when it comes for our program, for our cultural program, of course, the well-being of people and of organizations and collective well-being as well, it has become an even more important part of our work. In the framework of one international consortium that we are working with, we realized we conducted a study on art and the pandemic. We looked at how did art influence our well-being while staying at home, while trying to go through this the big first lockdown. We also looked at how the pandemic influenced the work in culture sector. So well-being has probably become our top priority during these difficult times, and we were happy to be able to prove that art consumption and art creation and culture consumption in general can be linked directly to a better state of mind for everybody. Unfortunately, we needed a pandemic to bring more proof on that.
Let's not waste a good crisis, as they say. One more question for you, and then maybe some questions from the audience a bit later. But I've noticed that you also seem to be really active in European scale. You also have an EU-funded project called Art and Wellbeing, together with 3 other institutions in Europe. Could you tell a bit about the goals of this project?
Yes, we are actually working in several European and international consortiums working with arts and health, or culture and well-being. The one that you mentioned is called Art and Wellbeing, or O. More details can be found at art-wellbeing.eu. It's a project that looks at how we can pilot new methods and new projects to work with culture and well-being and to bring them to a more diverse audience. In Europe, our partners are Beaux-Arts, the Center for Fine Arts in Brussels, Maribor, the gallery, the Bruno Kessler Foundation from Italy, and the Maribor Art Gallery from Slovenia. My colleague Rarica Zbranka, the program director of the Cluj Cultural Center, will bring more details about it in the co-creation workshop later on. But we are also involved with other projects like MESOC, where We have an international consortium with 10 cities, Cluj being the pilot city for well-being and health. This is a research project. We try to define a set of indicators and a set of tools to measure the impact of culture in the overall well-being. We also work with the region of Copenhagen and Helsinki and the World Health Organization in another pilot project. And we have recently signed an agreement with UNESCO for Cluj-Napoca to be one of the pilot European cities for the new UNESCO thematic indicators for culture in the Sustainable Development Agenda, where well-being has a very important place. More details about all this can be learned from my colleague Rarița in the cooperation workshop, and also in our dedicated forum for culture and well-being that we will host in Cluj late October this year.
Thank you, Stefan, and for your impressive list of your cooperation organizations. You can add the city of Tampere soon in the future, I'm sure about that. But thank you, Stefan, and for all the members interested on Cluj Cultural Center work, be sure to check out their impressive YouTube channel as well. If you have questions for Stefan, write them in the chat and we will get back to them quite soon.
Next, we will head to Barcelona. We will have Sonia Ruiz, the Gender and Time Policies Director, with us. Welcome, Sonia. Again, you have a very interesting case to present us, time policies. This has made us here in Tampere very curious and excited. It's true that time is a core element when it comes to well-being. And Sonia, would you please give your interesting presentation on this matter to us?
Many thanks. Hello. Many thanks for inviting Barcelona City Council to take part of this culture forum. Special thanks to Tampere and Eurocity, and it's a pleasure to be here learning so much. I will see. Since 2003, Barcelona City promotes an organization of time that aims at creating a fairer and healthier society, and which is also more in harmony with nature. We know that a good distribution and use of time improves quality of life, well-being, and efficiency in organizations. And time policies benefit people's everyday lives, which are strongly conditioned by the centrality of the labor market at the expense of other important personal, family, social, community, and of course, cultural spaces. Therefore, if cultural policies can strengthen health, well-being, and quality of life, as you have been telling us you're doing in Tampere, London, Aarhus, and many other cities, with a good distribution of time, the benefits can multiply. So time is an essential element when we speak of social cohesion and sustainability. It is also a very valuable resource that needs to be redistributed, like work, in order to reduce class, gender, ethnic, racial, age, and other inequalities. At present time, poverty, as with economic poverty, bears a woman's face. So in 2011, Barcelona City Council launched its time agreement as a city agreement promoting the implementation of initiatives for helping people to live and organize their daily time schedules according to their needs. More than 243 organizations are signatories to it. For its part, Barcelona City Council is implementing more than 70 time policies adopted by some 35 bodies. This is taking place in the field of health, caring for people, participation, city services, work in enterprises and organizations, mobility, sustainability and the city, and of course, education and culture. So already talking about culture and time. In 2007, as part of our collection of time dossiers, Time and Culture, an approach to analyzing culture from the perspective of time, was published. And this publication was presented on the premise that everyone has to be able to enjoy both culture and their time. It highlighted that the demand to reorganize city timetables, opening and closing times of cultural services and other facilities was expressed for the first time by the Italian feminist movement. It also showed that the right to culture always entails having the time to enjoy it. So therefore, social and gender inequalities are crucial for understanding habits and cultural practices these days. Barcelona has a diverse range of municipal cultural services and facilities available to city residents, but the truth is that as individuals, we do not take part in cultural activities and we do not create art for reasons linked to financial reasons, ticket books, or the prices of music, the lack of resources for creating, sometimes also because of low interest that proposals might awaken, the lack of knowledge or information of the existence of activities, and available time. The last survey on cultural needs and participation of our cities suggests that a hypothetical closure of libraries and community centers would have a greater effect on people who reside in low-income neighborhoods, on women, and on individuals with non-EU backgrounds. More women than men, too, would like to do cultural activities or do more of them. But the work and especially the care responsibilities and the shortage of time make that impossible for them. So this coupling of time and culture presents a series of challenges that need to be tackled through specific strategies that we in Barcelona are beginning to carry out through several initiatives. Firstly, I shall mention the future challenges we need to address in depth. One, a time perspective ought to be introduced into cultural policies. In other words, the goals and guidelines of cultural policies should be designed to reverse time inequalities. Second, the time perspective has to be explicitly incorporated into cultural statistics. Also, a good incorporation of the time perspective into cultural policies can enable the coordination of responses to aspects such as accessibility, and can therefore also help to identify exclusions. We have just drafted a plan on facilities and gender, where management and timetables, together with care spaces and the simultaneousness of activities for parents and children, for example, are key commitments. Public prices can play a role here too, with a discount or reductions. We need to promote co-responsibility and work-life balance in companies and in the public procurement. And in addition, we need to opt for proximity, for cultural services and facilities that are close at hand to everyone, especially people with more limited mobility. At last, but not at least, I would like to briefly share 3 municipal initiatives with you. First, the first one is the Open Playgrounds. It started in 2005, and now it is taking place in nursery schools as well. These are the city school playgrounds. They are opening up as public use spaces for families, children, and teenagers outside school hours during weekends and school holiday periods. Each open school playground has its own monitoring services, and sports or artistic theme and family-focused educational dynamization activities are held. These activities, of course, are open and free in the neighborhood. Then we also have the Plan for Play. It originally started in 2019. And after the Institute for Children and Teenagers had run a participatory process in which children asked to spend more time with the family, engaging in neighborhood life and having more time for playing. So playgrounds and spaces are being transformed through a co-education process and placed at the center of the city. That means that streets are opening up and play is promoted in squares, and also priority areas of play have been created. And at last, the project in progress of libraries and timetable regulation. Libraries uses are changing in our city. So libraries have become another space where people can interact. Before the pandemic, libraries had been analyzing the time slots of use, and it is an ongoing process right now. As it may have happened in most cities, the pandemic has also encouraged an increase in digitalization of many processes of the services. So this is being studied. Even so, Barcelona network of libraries, we have more than 40, had just started timetables that were complementing one another, morning and afternoon timetables, including Saturdays and Sunday, also under local and neighborhood criteria. Of course, there are study rooms that open until 11 and other services. I will leave it here, just reminding that the ancient Greek myths already talked of time in two dimensions. There was chronos, as time exterior to ourselves, immutable and constant. And there was kairos, as a personal time, the time that makes up our daily schedule, and where we have to fit in employment and care, also family and friendship, leisure, activism, and culture. It is a second aspect that in Barcelona we aim to have an impact on, to call attention to this flexible time full of cultural possibilities that we have to help to redistribute fairly. So many thanks and looking forward to the discussion.
Okay. Yes. Thank you, Sonia, and all the previous speakers. All the presentations will be delivered you later, so don't worry if you missed something. You have a chance to come back to them all. It's time for your questions, dear members. Please write them to the chat with your name, city, and tell for whom the question is. And we will soon have all our 4 speakers, Claire, Lars, Stefan, and Sonia, back with us for your questions. Jaakko, have you got any questions already?
Yes, we do. First question goes to Stefan, to Cluj. The decision to carry out your planned efforts regardless of whether you won or not, was it a decision you made early or did it come during the competition process? And this question comes from Uppsala, Sweden.
To be honest, we thought about it long in advance because we asked ourselves the typical question every city candidate has when applying for European Capital of Culture title. And the typical question is, do we really want to win? Is it really good to have such a big project in a city, overwhelming, possibly overwhelming for the local sector, for the local culture sector? So we asked ourselves this question from the early start, and then while we advanced in the competition and we had invested more and more effort into the programming, of course we got into it and we wanted to win. But then we realized that we want so much to win, and we have put so many good ideas and so many crucial initiatives for the culture sector and for the local environment in the city, that it would be a tremendous pity that in case we don't win, we lose all this. So yes, we planned it in advance, and the math was really simple. At that moment, I think in Europe we had around 250 city candidates, city candidating for European Capital of Culture title throughout the history, and only less than 50 of them have won. So then we had 200 local programs for culture and sustainable development lost. And then we said, okay, we will not be one of the 200. So we discussed with the municipality, with the local community, about the possibility of carrying on no matter what. And not only that we did that, but we have also launched a collaboration, an international collaboration, an informal network of cities called Culture Next, where we bring together almost 30 cities that are current or former candidates with the same purpose of supporting one another to implement the ECOC program, no matter if it was awarded or not with the title.
So you had a really realistic approach since the beginning, and now that we look at your work, it was the right approach. The next one, thank you, Stefan. The next question goes to Sonia, but it's actually from Claire. So Claire, you can go ahead and actually ask it from Sonia yourself. I give you the honor.
Oh, thank you. Sonia, that was hugely impressive, really exciting. I want to find about lots about it, and I just wondered during the development of it, how are you engaging your kind of Barcelonas, your people, in the development of the program, and were there any surprises in the collaboration and the delivery?
Yes, thank you very much for the question, Claire. And yes, of course, people are needed, and participation is a must in this type of projects, because it's also, I would say, what happens when we talk about care, when we talk about time policies, although it's so fundamental for everyone and it's central to our lives. The majority of the people would say that they don't know what they are. So since the 200, Barcelona has been working on that since the beginning of this century. But since 2011, we have this time agreement where 243 organizations participate that are enterprises. We have a special network also of committed enterprises that are working on flexible time, on balanced time, and other specific measures in their organizations. But we also count with the neighborhood organizations, women's organizations, ecological organizations, foundations, and other type of associations that we gather all together once a year in order to update and to prioritize the different activities and initiatives. We also have grants from the city council in order to promote this reorganization of time. So each year we renew the grants for them to also for the civil society to organize activities themselves and to spread the time word.
Mm-hmm. You seem to have been working on civil participation in so many levels. Really impressive. Thank you. The next question comes from Laura Sanchez Serrano, and it also goes to you, Sonia. Laura would like to know about the plan for play, a playable city. Were there artists involved in the design of the playgrounds? Were they designed through participatory methods?
Yes, this plan was launched in 2019. There's a lot of information also on the Barcelona City Council website, where Laura, I think, can find also how the plan was developed. And the good news is that it will last until year 30. So it's a work in progress. We cannot to recenter and to put play in the center of the city cannot be done in 2 years' time or within a mandate, for sure. So it's an ongoing and a work in progress, where many also civil society organizations have been taking part. And also I have to say that it was inside the city council. It was also done with the participation of many bodies, like the equality bodies. Of course, the leadership was from the Institute of Young People and Children. So, there was during the elaboration of this plan, there was a lot of participation, both of bodies from the city council and also the civil society and the artists.
Thank you, Sonia. I can see that your question engine has started and there's a lot of questions. We will have time for a few of them now. And the next one goes to Lars to Aarhus. Do you see a difference in how you want to receive culture in care linked to age, cultural background and socio-economic, etc.?
Once again, if I see a difference between culture and age?
Yeah. Do you see a difference in how you want to receive culture in care linked to age, cultural background, socio-economic, etc.? Sorry, Yeah.
I think in Aarhus we are trying both on a job level, but also on the elderly level. And we have, prior to this meeting, we just sat together with Claire and Sonia. We are talking about youngsters as well, and the anxiety they have experienced through the pandemic. And there are different aspects that you should take into account. So I see there is a difference between social economic background, but also, as I think it was Lauri that mentioned in the beginning, that you have this you have culture for everyone, and then you have to design special courses to get culture out to some that doesn't just seek it in itself. And that is one of the things I was talking about here in Aarhus. We're trying to facilitate these meetings, but also how do we get in contact with you don't get easily in contact with people with dementia, for example. So you need to get the next in kind or the rehabilitation center into what kind of offers do they have at the museums, for example. So these meetings and different kind of connection is crucial if you need to succeed in getting cultural offers to everybody, regardless of social and economic backgrounds. They have to be specially designed, I think.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. Thank you, Lars. The next one goes for everyone, and maybe one of you can answer. Is any one of you working about well-being of the professional cultural sector? And I understand this question so that is any one of you working with the well-being of the artists? This was a question from Olivier Sergent. So anyone working with that? Stefan, you have your hand up.
Yes, we are looking at that as well. As mentioned earlier in my brief presentation, we are looking at how work looks like in the culture sector, and we conducted a survey on that during right at the beginning of the big lockdown last year. We also have a pilot for culture prescriptions for burnout, where we are working mostly with people from culture organizations. And if you want to connect on this, just write us an email to me or to my colleague Rarica Zbranka, who is directly in charge of that.
So thank you, Stefan. The last question of this session goes to all of you. It's made by Milena Dabetic, and really short answers. To all panelists, No, sorry. It was from Raritas Branca, this one that I wanted to ask, sorry, to all panelists. Can you share a daring idea of how you imagine culture will support well-being and health in the future? A daring idea of how culture can support well-being in the future. And let's start with Sonia.
Quite a question.
Quite a question. Can Sonia, we can't hear you.
Sorry. Yes. Sorry. I would say that cooperation and strengthening the neighborhood life, the cultural expressions, and the participation of people is one of the ways that can help to put that in practice.
Thank you. And maybe then we have Claire.
It's a very, very good question. So I think for me, I'm really interested in how you can create hyperlocal and really engage with your citizens on the ground. So what would it be like if London and other cities had creative health and wellbeing zones, hubs for where there was no wrong door for people, whoever it was, can access what they need, culture. So there would be cultural providers, the mutual aid groups, the social care, the healthcare, all in one place. And that for me would be a really fantastic thing to do.
Thank you. And then Stefan.
Well, it's a bit weird to take questions from my colleague, but I will answer. I think one simple and very impactful thing to do was to look at well-being as a right of every person. So when talking about work environment or institutional frameworks, hospital budgets, school budgets, city hall budgets, this should be a special focus, and this should have a dedicated budget and a dedicated structure to just answer to the question, how are we dealing with the well-being of the people working here? So it's a democratic right, and we should look at it like that.
Yes, thank you. And then Lars, your turn.
Many good things have been said already, and I totally agree with Claire. The community building, the local aspects, I think is of huge importance in the future. And then we also in Aarhus, I'm quite curious about the technology issue. Can we, by somehow combining the technology together with some of these issues, I think there is some interesting perspective there to see the technology as a kind of bridge between culture and health, and how can we combine it, and the artist's role in that concept. That is something I know there's a session later on where we are looking at this, but I think that is interesting as well.
Yes, exactly. That is one of the topics of the sessions of this afternoon. But so much thank you for all the panelists. It was a pleasure having you with us. And there were some questions that still are left to answer, but maybe we'll get back to them in the final report of this forum. But thank you all.
Thank you. Now I would like to ask our previous speaker, Pia Houni, back on the stage. Pia, welcome again.
Okay. Thank you very much, and thank you very much about your lovely presentations and your wonderful work, what you are doing in your countries and the cities. That's great. Okay, I tried to summarize very shortly a few comments and few points what I catch, these 4 presentation. Number 1 is that all of you have so interesting cases, what you share, so interesting things happen around the different countries. I'm asking now that how we can share knowledge about these cases for others, and how to create continuity, how we protect that things are continuity. Number 2, I believe that at the moment it's very big issues, and it's about the mental issues. The most of you mentioned about that, and we know in the research work at the moment that the mental issues are big in almost the European all countries. So it's impact to the economy, but it's definitely impact to family lives and individuals' life. What we can do with that question. How we find those people who are living in vulnerable situation, and special the gender issue was very good as well. So I always want to say that prevention is highly, highly important. Okay, the next one, number 3, I think, validation is important. What we really want to do, it's meaning that what we maybe can do. So I think we should create some kind of good strategies around, because nobody can do all things at the same time. So when we're creating the good strategies, we can take steps going forward and look at the future. So we need the good research work, we need this cooperations, what you already share. That's all the key words about doing this. And the last one, what I want to say, thank you for this comment. It's very, very important to look at, artists' own well-being and mental state as well. Of course, it's important, because if artists don't feeling themselves well-being, how they can share well-being and the health to others? Mission impossible. That's my short comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pia.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At the beginning, Eija said that we wish this Culture Forum would be inspiring and interactive. And at least I have the feeling that at least this morning really has been, at least I am inspired. Hope you all are too. Our time here at Culture Forum virtual stage and plenary session is coming to an end. But the day and the forum is far from over. After lunch, we will head to workshops. There are 4 of them running at the same time. You can only attend one now, but you can watch the rest later as recordings if you are interested. And in those workshops, we will dive more deep into practice of many, many cities. You will find the workshops from the left column of your screen where it says sessions. Those rooms will open 5 minutes prior to the starting time, so don't get worried if you don't see anything yet. They will open 5 minutes before the scheduled starting time. I would also like to remind about the digital expo that is during the whole forum.
We in the Tampere virtual stage thank you warmly for the morning, and wish that you will have a very inspiring afternoon and tomorrow as well. But now it's time for lunch. Jaakko, let's have some Karelian pies for starter.
Will do. Bon appetit.
Hyvää ruokahalua in Finnish. See you in the afternoon.
See you later.
Bye.